Your point of view, your literal point of view, your ability to experience from your identity cannot cease to exist. It can change form, but it cannot cease to exist. That's its quality, existence itself. Again, non-existence doesn't exist. By definition, that's its quality, to not exist. So if you exist, you will always exist, linearly speaking, because there is only one moment, it is now, and every version of you exists now. Physical, non-physical, human, extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional. Every single version exists now. So why should non-physical reality be any different? You are capable of existing as a non-corporeal being. Therefore, if you understand, truly deeply understand the first law, you will know that even at physical death, that cannot be the end of your identity. Your identity is the unique reflection of all that is that you are, your point of view of all that is, and that cannot vanish.
And if we constantly shift into parallel realities billions of times a second, do our guides and helpers follow us through each of these parallel realities, or do they change?
You have different guides for every shift you make. Again, it may appear as if they are following you, as you say, and because they are in a higher dimension, they may have a broader point of view that allows them to see beyond the physical moment limitations that exist as the tick of the clock of your physical reality. So they may be able to follow you from a broader perspective, but nevertheless, as you shift as a physical persona, another aspect of those guides is what's present for you as a new person.
So is that kind of true with the oversoul, that your soul family, so to speak, can change based on who you are at any given moment? Or
Yes.
Is that more stable?
No. Anything and everything, remember the fifth law, everything changes.
Yeah, it's like as humans, we may look for stability, but from the standpoint of being in spirit and the connections we have, it's a free-flowing experience.
It's a free-flowing stability. Change is the only stable thing.
Right.
It's, again, through analogy, like walking. You have to actually keep moving to keep in balance. If you try to stay still and balance on one foot, you will fall over. You have to actually change to remain stable.
And as long as you hold someone in your heart with pure intention, can you keep this person in your reality even if the person is vibrationally, physically far from you?
Not necessarily. It depends upon what their theme of exploration is and how relevant it is for your reality to maintain a connection to that particular person. So holding them in your heart is what allows them to be who they are. And if that sometimes may require that there is no apparent connection temporarily, then that is what is required as an expression of your love for them.
So our desire for this sense of connection and permanence of connection.
There is always permanence of connection, just not always on the same level. Again, you have to broaden your perspective and perception of the fact that you always have a connection, because nothing can be disconnected from one another because it's all one thing. But on the different levels where you can have the experience of disconnection, then sometimes disconnection can be used in positive ways to allow people to go on their journeys uniquely from the journey that you are on temporarily. So there's nothing wrong with that or negative about that. It's not that you're actually truly losing track of them, because you are always connected on a higher level. But you may have to allow for what appears to be temporary disconnection to allow people to have their own journeys.
So in a sense, what you're explaining is more how spirit would relate to the idea of connection, non-connection, being stable in whatever change occurs. Whereas as humans, we may be insistent upon connections so that we feel stable.
Insistent on a particular form of connection, yes.
I see. So is that sort of one of the challenges that we as humans are facing, is understanding how to relate to changing relationships? And
Yes.
okay, thank you. How is it that we can continue to have experiences beyond the one if we are the only ever who we are now and won't be anyone else? I'd like to feel, this person is saying, I'd like to feel secure about continuance, both for myself and my loved ones, but still feel fearful sometimes around this idea of death and what comes after this life experience. Can you give some more reassurance about that? Or
again, it goes back to what we've already just said recently. You have to understand more deeply the idea of the first law, that you exist. And your uniqueness cannot dissipate, cannot vanish. You will change, but you will not, as an identity, be able to disappear.
And you say that we have free will, but you also talk about the idea of the motivational mechanism,
Yeah.
and that we always do what we think will serve us best in any given moment. That sounds like it might be deterministic in a way.
No, not at all. Because you're choosing what to believe in. So once you believe in something, it does set up a cause and effect situation in your linear physical reality, because every choice you make has a specific consequence that is designed to go with that choice. If you want to call that temporarily deterministic as a mechanism, you can. But since you are making the choice to believe what you believe and inputting that choice into the motivational mechanism, you still have the free will to determine what beliefs you put into the motivational mechanism. The motivational mechanism itself only determines, as far as the choice you put into it, what the effect will be that comes out of putting that choice in.
And so this one person is saying they like the idea of being me as a soul, but I want to experience more than just this one personality, lifetime, body, etc. How does that work?
We are not sure we understand the way the question is being formed.
I'm going to guess that the person is wondering if they can change into different people as personality in this lifetime, in this body.
To a degree. Again, this goes back to the idea of shape-shifting and goes back to the idea that you are a different person billions of times a second. It just depends on to what degree it's relevant for you to actually appear to be a different person to others and yourself. It's often not necessary to be that extreme. It's not impossible, but the question again is it relevant, truly relevant for what you need?
So is that sort of the idea when someone has a change in gender identification, and
Yes.
then they literally become a completely different person?
Yes, and you have the ability to do that in your physical reality as a reflection of a change and a shift that you know is true for you. So yes, you can do those kinds of things to represent that kind of change. But again, it's up to you as to how to represent that and how relevant it is for you. That's your decision.
Right, because people tend to talk about seem to have many different lifetimes in this lifetime because of, I guess, the rapid sense of change, the flexibility of the reality now.
Yes.
And that they're literally doing several lifetimes in one.
In a sense, yes. As we have said, this is the lifetime where you're allowed to actually change your themes.
That's exciting.
Yes, it is.
And what exactly are healers supposed to be doing? This person would love to hear the best alternative healing modalities to uplift their clients' souls and health of all humanity.
As we have said, a healer only provides a vibrational resonance that represents the healed state of the person they are serving. But what that person does with that vibration, whether they adapt it to themselves and heal themselves or not is none of the healer's business. You have provided what you can provide. You have been as much help as you can be by providing the clue to the frequency that that person can use to heal themselves and uplift themselves. But that person has to be allowed to make the choice as to whether to do that now, later, or even at all. It's none of your business because you have no idea what their life path is, why they came to you, what reasons they have interacted with you. You don't have any determination or say in that, other than the fact that they did come to you for a reason, but you're not necessarily going to know what that reason is. So you have to be open to allowing them to make the choices they make, to do what they will with the information and energy you have shared with them. That is your gift. That is what you can do to be of help. But to be of help, you have to allow them to make their choices. It's none of your business what they choose to do with the gift you have given them. After all, it's a gift.
And what exactly is heaven and hell after death that some people speak of?
The idea, again, in spirit is that you can imagine anything and it will usually instantly manifest. So based on the belief systems of the personality before death, it might be possible to experience positive and or what seem to be negative things like heaven and hell in the spirit world. But of course, most people, most beings would find that if they really truly believe that they might experience some form of torture, pain, or punishment, they will instantly wish that they were out of it, and then manifestationally that will happen. They will instantly be out of it. And they will then realize, perhaps, that what they believe, what they think, will be instantly true because there's no time lag in spirit. The manifestation you think of is the manifestation you experience instantaneously. So the idea of heaven and hell is the idea that in spirit you can manifest exactly, instantly, what you believe you are all about, what reflection you believe you need at that moment, what you know you are in that moment. But I will say it's unconditionally, and the idea is that because it's unconditional, you can, if you're willing, feel the absolute unconditional love and bliss that you will be surrounded by as the natural nature of the afterlife. But you can create for yourself, if you really wish to, something less than that. But you can only do that because you are unconditionally supported and loved. Eventually, most spirits will realize that, no matter what their belief system was when they were physically alive.
What are some of the reasons that an individual would depart in the middle of their life, so to speak?
You don't depart in the middle of your life. I understand what you mean by that, but if you have departed, other than the idea of intentional suicide, that is your life. That is your choice. It's not the middle of your life. You may not have necessarily achieved an old age physically, but if you have left in some way, shape, or form, apparently without necessarily intentionally causing yourself to die, then that is not the middle of your life. That is the timing you chose to go back into spirit because you have achieved your theme or exploration as you deemed it necessary when you chose to be born.
So what is the discrepancy between the person who's like full of life and they're pursuing all these exciting things and they're in the process of manifesting, and then all of a sudden they are struck down? What are some of the reasons that would, because it deceptively looks like they're in the middle of their life, but yet obviously something else is going on?
Yes. And to put it very simply, some people say, I'm going to have a life of fun and doing all these amazing things, and I want to die at the top when I'm having the most fun. That's it. I want to go out on top. Simple as that. It can be more complicated, but generally it's as simple as that. I've achieved what I need to achieve. I'm having the most fun I've ever had, manifesting this and manifesting that. I'm done.
And when it comes to like family groups, like for example, if a mother departs and she's got young children and, that whole scenario where to the child, it's so unreal that could happen.
To the child, it's so unreal because that's what the child has been taught. If the child is taught differently about life and spirit and raised in a different understanding, that will be a different understanding for the child when that happens.
So parents can help their children get through an experience like that by explaining
how things actually are and how the different levels, in no way, shape, or form, physical, non-physical, means that there's a disconnect and that you can still communicate. Again, it would be similar. And I don't mean to make light of this because I know how deeply affected many of you are by this. But again, it's mostly because of how you're taught to look at things. But it would be similar to having someone graduate from a university and suddenly feeling like you're disconnected for some reason. You're not. You celebrate the idea that they have gone on, they have graduated, they have reached a higher level of understanding, so they can move forward in a new way with the new knowledge that they have, and they can still impart to you the benefits of that knowledge and have you reach out to them to connect to them on a new level, in a new way, as a different person, as a different being, so that you know that there is a continuum here. It doesn't get disconnected. So use the analogy of things in physical reality that are indicative of a person simply reaching a different level in life. There is no real disconnection. It's just that you have to relate to each other a little differently because of the different knowledge levels that each of you are at. Different experience levels each of you are at. There is no difference in that between that analogy and someone being in spirit when someone else is not. Depends on how you look at it.
Thank you. Can you give us some clarification on the misunderstanding of the fluid cord?
We are not sure what that person means by that terminology. If they're talking about the idea of the silver cord, this is just a euphemism for the energy connection that people have when they're out of body, meaning that they are still really alive. They haven't actually died, so to speak. They are still capable of rejoining or reconnecting to the physical experience. So if the silver cord is what you're referring to, it's that energetic connection when someone astral travels, is out of body, but their body is still alive. But we do not know if that is what this person meant by fluid cord. That terminology does not exist within the channel's vocabulary for us to draw upon.
Okay. Let's see. How can we know for sure that we are in a new Earth or on a new Earth?
Because again, you shift billions of times a second to different parallel versions of Earth. That's just the way things work. You can always know you're on a new version of Earth, just as you can always know that you are a new person every single moment and have a new history every single moment, because that's how it works. Again, a deeper understanding of how things work will help you with this.
And how can we propagate the new metaphysical definitions that you've described to replace the old ones?
Live them. Speak them, breathe them, live them. Share them with others when it's appropriate to do so as new definitions, new ways to look at things. Ponder this, ponder that. How about looking at it this way? What if you looked at it that way? But live them. Act as if those are the definitions that are real for you.
So, one question here is, when Kennedy was in president, and the idea that he was going to reveal that there were extraterrestrials, had we lived through that timeline, what would it look like now?
Well, there are obviously parallel reality versions of Earth that did experience or are experiencing that particular kind of history now as they're present. There are many different versions of outcomes relevant to that particular similar history in many different parallel realities. So to pick one is relatively arbitrary. Nevertheless, one particular parallel reality where President Kennedy revealed the existence of extraterrestrials, wound up in the isolation of Earth from all extraterrestrials. Another version wound up allowing Earth to join the Interstellar Alliance much sooner. Another version allowed there to be a change in the political... One moment.